from home fans. I know a lot of us are back to being at home and some things are starting to shut down again. So, hey, what better than to take all that time we have free at home and learn something brand new that you can do for free online right here on the Spectra Creative channel. We call it Doodling with Purpose. It's all about learning hieroglyphics. And today we're going to do a giant bowl of M&Ms. No, just kidding, we're not going to do M&Ms. We're going to start doing the M double consonants, though. But before we jump into those glyphs, we're going to, of course, review the 3 glyphs that we learned last week. And if this is your very first Doodling with Purpose, you should probably go back and start with Lesson 1, because it does kind of, build and go in chronological order. All right, so last week we started with the crocodile tail, which is 3 spikes, each longer than the last. Up and connect, crocodile tail. Come. Now we have the bricklaying tool, kid, and then the harpoon with a flourish, and that's kiss. All right, so for this week, to start off our 3 new glyphs, the first one we are going to do is a sickle, meaning the tool you would use to cut grain, if you will, although I think a lot of people tend to think of a sickle as more like this, a long stick with the sharp blade that goes in a curve. You're probably used to seeing this on things like the Grim Reaper, or Death, or whatever you want to call it, on Halloween. What he's carrying around is a sickle, but this is not the sickle. I'm definitely more talking about the first one we looked at, because we're talking about the grain tool, and this is actually an ancient Egyptian sickle, which you can see has that curved shape used for cutting down reeds and cutting wheat and cutting papyrus. Now the glyph of it looks a lot like a lamed in Hebrew. If you're familiar with the Hebrew alphabet and you know how to draw a lamed, you're going to be already good at drawing the sickle glyph. And it basically looks like this. It's that line down across and then the blade. Like I said, if you know how to draw a lamed, if you know Hebrew, then you got this one already down tight. So let's take a look. This is going to be the ma sound, like mama, like ma, M-A. And it does show up a lot in letters, so it's one you're going to see quite often. So definitely a good one to learn and keep memorized. So drawing it, pretty simple. Line down, across, and your curve. Down, across, and a curve. Pretty simple, right? Down, across, and a curve. And that's your sickle. Next up, we are going to do a statue base. And I'm not talking about like a giant base like we have in modern times. I'm more talking about an ancient Egyptian base. You can see it's long, it's flat, and it's curved downward at one side. This is basically exactly what we're going to be drawing. Or for another angle, something again like this, where it's basically like a long box, but it's got a slant at one side. And you're often going to see it paired with the sickle. So you see here the statue base on the left and the sickle on the right. They tend to show up almost as one glyph, but you will see it by itself. So here it is in the word Ptolemy, which was the Egyptian leaders after Alexander the Great. And again, here you see it with the sickle in hieroglyphic words. So they tend to go hand in hand. They're a good pair, and that's because it also is the M-A sound, the ma sound. Both the sickle and the statue base both make an M-A sound, which is why you see them paired up, mostly for aesthetic purposes, because they look nicely together. Line across, diagonal, back, and up, and that's ma. Line across, diagonal, back, and up, ma. Line across, diagonal down, back across, and up. And to show you how it works with the sickle, it's basically you draw your sickle, and then you draw your base, just like that. So one more time, your sickle down, there's your blade, your statue base inside. And that is ma. All right, moving off of ma, we are now going to do our last glyph for the day, which is an ancient Egyptian rope, right? Just like this mummy who's doing jump rope. No, just kidding. Mummies didn't do jump rope. They pretty much laid around and did nothing for thousands of years. We're talking just a regular rope, a curled rope, or some Egyptologists also say it's a whip. But either way, it's basically 2 loops of rope that end in kind of a tail. And yeah, rope was all over the place in ancient Egypt. They used it in cooking, they used it for measurements. It's actually how they measured out the pyramids. They just used rope on the ground and stakes. So this is going to make the M sound, like in the back of the throat, M. We don't really have that too much in English, but that's the sound it'll make. All right, so we're going to do a loop back up to the top, and then a flourish. So a curved line around, back around, and a flourish. All right, one more time. Curved line, back around, and the flourish. And there you go, that's your rope. And that concludes 3 new glyphs this week. And that's why we're doing it weekly, because studying ancient Egyptian is a time-consuming process. I've mentioned in previous videos that ancient scribes spent 7 to 9 years learning hieroglyphics. So if it's taking a while, that's a good thing. You should be taking a while and doing this week to week slowly. Next week, we will continue to deep dive into our M's. We have quite a few more M's to go. There's more M double consonants than any other double consonant, so we'll be doing M's for at least 2 or 3 weeks, but they're kind of fun, and there's some really good ones in there. Until then, continue doodling, but don't just doodle. Doodle with purpose, as we learn hieroglyphics from home step by step. Thanks for watching.